Hello and welcome to Raptors Today. Savanna Hamilton alongside Paul Jones and Sherman Hamilton. Amy Audibert will be joining us a little bit later. Thursday was the NBA trade deadline. Guys, lots of action around the league. This show is called Raptors Today, so we're going to focus on the Toronto Raptors, but Amy's going to be touching about some other trades a little bit later. Let's get straight to the cold notes here, okay? The Raptors, they sent Goran Dragic and a protected first-round pick to the San Antonio Spurs in return for Trae Young, Drew Eubanks, and a second-round pick via Detroit. Jonesy, how do you like the trade, and what does Trae Young bring to this team?
I like the trade. I've always been a Trae Young fan from the time he was in college, back in Georgia Tech. He just, with his background, you just knew this guy understood the game, and he's become a sought-after player in the league. He's one of those guys that will come to this team, will bring a veteran presence. I've never been in a locker room with him, but from all the guys and people I talk to around the league, they talk about what a solid veteran he is in the locker room. And I think that's what the Raptors are looking for. They get some bench help. They get a guy who won't clog things up offensively. He understands how to play, moves the ball, he'll rebound, he'll cut, he'll set good screens. And then at the other end, Savannah, a lot of people like to always look at a guy's offense or what he can do. Think about the Raptors player profile. 6'8", 6'9", long, athletic, ability to switch on the perimeter. Trae Young fits right into that. And he's a veteran who understands how to play. He's seen different players around the league. So his scouting report is pretty well entrenched in his brain. So I just like what he gives and how he fits. And I think he's going to be a really, really solid addition to this team going forward.
Absolutely. I'm looking at his numbers. Some of his career high numbers include 15 points averaging in a season when he was with Brooklyn, and he was shooting over 50%. And that seems to be typical of all of his season numbers, around the 50% mark from the field. So I think he's a really great complementary piece to the Toronto Raptors. And let's talk about somebody who they decided to waive, Eubanks, to clear a roster spot, of course. So do you think that the Raptors will be active on the buyout market, or could this be a potential move to open up space for a two-way contract conversion?
All of the above, Sav. That's the short answer. It's all possible. When you think about the Raptors and understanding that Masai Ujiri and Bobby Webster are always doing things that are going to win and also consider to develop talent as well. This is kind of their mantra. They've been very good at winning and developing at the same time, which is a difficult thing to do. So understanding the importance of right now and the trajectory of this team, I think they're feeling that both those options are in play. Look, they could put another piece from the open market that could elevate this team to another level, or they could look at a Justin Champagnie and convert his two-way into a regular contract to reward him and to continue to develop the young talent that they're already invested in. So it is all on the table, and it just depends on what they think the ceiling is for this team this season. If they're saying they're that close based on the Eastern Conference that they could be an Eastern Conference finalist, and who knows what happens at that juncture, or they're saying, okay, they don't know if they're right there yet, and they might want to put the money into a young player like Champagnie that they're developing and thinking that he can have a future that can help this team in the long run. So the short answer is yes, it's all on the table. The longer answer is, depending on where they see this team finishing, that's going to dictate what they decide to do with that roster spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Sav, let me ask you and Sherm this, and we all know the answer to this. How valuable would experience be for these young guys getting into a play-in or a playoff situation? Huh?
It'd be huge. It'd be huge.
I don't think there's a number on that. I don't think you can even buy that experience. So absolutely.
I don't talk about this team as a play-in team. I think this team is a playoff team.
Absolutely.
That's what I see.
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially this win streak, and now everybody's healthy. We're seeing what they're capable of. I think that Bobby Webster and Masai Ujiri truly made the right call with kind of staying grounded and not knee-jerk reaction, making any big trades or moves like that. But listen, guys, enough from us. We got to hear from President Masai Ujiri?
To me, you play the game to win. Even I said, even in a year like the Tampa year, the overall goal is winning. You have to think about the game like that. And I think the development of these players tell us that there's growth and they want to win. And who are we? Who are we to stop them from doing that? You put them in the situation to play, and whatever position they find themselves competing at the highest level, which is the NBA, at the highest level, which is all these great teams they compete against. That's what they want to. That's what we want to do. We want to win. This game is about winning. I think for me, like watching these guys, watching what these guys have done, what Nick Nurse has done, the coaching staff have done, what our medical team are doing, just the organization overall. The players have been incredible. There's been no complaints. Not one day have they come to me and said, when are we getting fans back, or when is this happening, or where? It's about winning. They talk about the game and how we can get better. The leadership of Fred, Pascal, OG, and how they are bringing this team together. The young guys, the spirit, we go through the tough times with the rookies and the young players on the team. They fight through it. I'm sure, it's like that with other teams, but I'm so proud of these guys because I'm telling you the adversity that these guys have gone through and what they go through. There's 29 other teams here playing with fans. We're not. And every day I know I'm the leader of this team. I feel bad about that, but I cannot come here and continue to complain about it, because there are other people that are going through tougher times than us. I do believe in the science. I do believe in that this thing is going to get better and it will head in the right direction. And hopefully we miss our fans, even though I like the seat I have right now. Conversations is we are never going anywhere. We're staying here. We're not playing anywhere else but Toronto. And I say that firmly and sternly that this is where we're going to play. And our fans will be back and we will be back rocking in our building. I think we were one of the highest approval teams in terms of fans and support and attendance to the games, atmosphere. We love that. This is where we are. We're not experiencing Tampa again. We love Tampa, but we're not doing that again. I think it's all a joint effort of our team, of front office, coaches. We talked about this with Nick, talked about this with Bobby on the style of play and how we want to the type of athletes and players we want to bring. Listen, we're in a copycat league. This is everybody wants to do what another person is doing. Go play like Golden State or go play. Well, we don't have those type of players, it's hard to find those type of players, so for me, we have to create ways where we think we're going to win in this league because it's about winning. And I feel strongly, that we can create our own style of play and bring these type of players and figure out a way to do it. Look, will it succeed? I pray it does. I'm hoping it does, and I think it will.
Yeah, Thaddeus, I think he's a known commodity around the NBA, and I think for us, we followed him for a while. We've made a few attempts to get him, via trades in prior years. So we felt like, this was a good situation where, we're bringing him into Toronto, and he's at a point in his career where we think he really complements the core and doesn't necessarily, he kind of complements more than tries to kind of substitute what they're doing. And I think that was, part of the philosophy for us was, maintaining and respecting what this group is doing and how can we add to it. Yeah, exactly. You hit it. That's the value play here, right? As you slide a little bit in the draft and you pick up a player that, you think can help you. Listen, I think historically that's it's an area not in the draft that we've operated in the past. And I think, realistically, we don't see a ton of, incremental change between those picks. Yeah, I think it goes back to when we kind of decided to go down this path this summer and, the types of players, especially on the defensive end that, Coach Nurse likes to play. And I think that these guys like to play. And we started to see it a little bit probably in, the bubble run. And so it's fun to see this team to come together. I think, due to COVID and injuries, we didn't really see the full group. And to be fair to them, they didn't have a ton of time together playing. I think for the first time, we're seeing that everyone relatively healthy, understanding, their expectations, understanding their roles and what we're trying to do on both ends. So that's probably been the most rewarding. Exactly. You kind of hit on them. There were some options to take on additional money. Ultimately, a couple of those deals fell through. And then in a couple other examples, the money went out so far, it felt a bit kind of risky. So we walked away from those. And then as far as, the flexibility under the tax, we knew going into this year, we'd be really tight. And so this does give us some flexibility in the buyout market. And also to use some of our mid-level to offer more than, maybe what another team can do.
You just heard from general manager Bobby Webster. So Jonesy, one thing that we've been hearing around is the fact that the Raptors have been interested in Thad Young for a while now. I don't know how long a while is, but the Raptors, they tend to have great scouting in that department. So how can his veteran presence be a help to a relatively younger team?
Well, as I said earlier, Sav, he's played with stars before. He was in Philadelphia. He was in Brooklyn, like the places where, Pierce and Garnett, like he's played with stars before, and he understands what it's about. And, I had a chance to chat with Matt Bonner, who's in the San Antonio organization right now, and says he's great with the young guys. And it's about the development. It's about just quietly pulling a young guy over and saying, listen, young fella, here's something that this player does, or here's something that we need to consider going forward, or this is going to happen. These are things, as you and Sherm both said earlier, there's no price on that. And when it comes from one of your peers, and a younger player doesn't feel like he's being maybe browbeaten or chastised by a coach, it's very, very different. And then again, let's get to his play on the court. That veteran experience. He knows when you need a good shot. If he's on the court, he knows the time of the game when, to ad lib for a key double team, or to a team's scouting report to when to shoot the passing lane. These are veteran things that come with being around the league. And how many times do we see a game and a play happen and you go, well, that's Chris Paul, or you pick a veteran name, a guy that understands what he's doing and rises to the moment. So I think his veteran presence will lend a lot to the young guys, both on and off the court, as Toronto heads for this, the stretch run after the All-Star break.
Exactly. And we've talked a lot now about Thad Young, but let's talk, Sherm, about the trade within the pick. So our first round pick for Detroit's second round pick. Why is that not too much of a concern for Bobby Webster and the Raptors?
Well, I think when you're talking about the Raptors and their ability, as you talked about, Sav, their scouting ability, it's top notch. They understand how to find talent, whether it be in the first round or the second round. They just have this knack of understanding and figuring out how the pieces fit. And, that's a talent, because a lot of organizations have high picks and they're just not able to put it together. Well, if you're the Raptors, you understand you're giving away a first round pick. But how good have you been with late first round, second round picks, undrafted free agents? This organization has been great with that. So, we tell players, play to their strengths. If you're not a good ball handler, don't put the ball on the floor. Well, the organization understands what their strength is, and their ability to acquire, recognize, and develop talent in the second round, it's been phenomenal. So I just think that they understand what they're able to do. And they understand giving up a first round pick. It's not easy, but the other side of it too is they know that they can be successful with a second round pick. And also the cap hit. I mean, having a first round pick is a different cap hit than having a second round pick. So there are positives for the Raptors moving forward. And I just think that when this organization makes a decision, especially about draft picks, with the way that they want youth and to develop talent, they're pretty good at making decisions when it comes to later round picks. So they're confident with what they have right now.
I love it because you're right. It's confidence. It's all in the confidence, and a system that can develop players into all-stars from undrafted, which is proof in the pudding right there. You don't need to worry about where you're going to be picking in the draft as much. So I think that was a great move. And you mentioned also cap hit as well. Like, Some smart moves and transactions there. We're talking trades. And so Amy Audibert will be taking us around some other transactions.
Thanks so much, Sav. Let's recap around the league with this trade deadline because it was pretty interesting right until the final minutes, as it usually is. But we've got to start with the blockbuster trade, the one that everyone's been talking about for months, but it finally happened. And that, of course, is Ben Simmons to Brooklyn and James Harden to Philly. This is going to be interesting because we can certainly break down these two stars and that have both been unhappy where they are. And they've both said they wanted to move. And we know what they bring in terms of on the court. But to me, this is all about who's going to step up now and perform off the court. If James Harden can get healthy and stay healthy and play with Joel Embiid, because Joel Embiid is playing out of his mind right now. I mean, James Harden's going to have to be able to complement that somehow. And that means having the ball in his hands a little bit less. They could be great. But that being said, I think Brooklyn, right? Same thing. If Ben Simmons comes in and he gets himself into shape and he's ready to go, they still have KD. We'll see what happens with the mandate and Kyrie, half part-time to full-time. But also they picked up Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and of course a future round pick. So they've got some balance too. This is going to come down to who shows up, steps up, and is ready to play sooner than later. Now let's get into that last minute one that certainly had my head scratching a little bit. And I'm sure a lot of other jaws on the ground. And it was the Dallas-Washington move. Dallas unloaded Kristaps Porzingis and a second round pick to Washington. And they gained Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. And it's pretty interesting because you'd think that Dallas is going to continue to completely build around Luka and what he brings. And Spencer Dinwiddie, in my opinion, is a guy who wants the ball in his hands. And so is he going to be able to take that second or maybe even third option at times? Because I think Dallas has some good things going on. The big thing for them is going to be what they choose to do with Jalen Brunson this offseason as he becomes a free agent. But he's been such a great compliment to Luka in the backcourt. But how about also they've got Dorian Finney-Smith that they just locked up, who's a great defender, starting to become a good shooter. They've got pieces, Dwight Powell, Tim Hardaway Jr., Reggie Bullock. So it's interesting that they chose to take on a guy that, again, likes to be super ball dominant and probably thinks he's got something to prove. And for the last one that we're going to chat about, why don't we just throw up the board because there is a lot involved. Detroit gets Marvin Bagley III. The Clippers get Rodney Hood and Semi Ojeleye. Sacramento picks up Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Jackson, and Trey Lyles. But how about Milwaukee? They acquire Serge Ibaka, 2 future second-round picks, and cash consideration. This is the one that I would say won this whole 4-team trade because Milwaukee's a team right now. They're in 4th place, 35-22. So they're a contender. They believe they can continue to push for championships. So they add Serge. Everyone up here knows what Serge brings. But how about just the front court depth, the elite defender, and really just an extra layer of support for Giannis? So I think Milwaukee's got to be pretty excited about this acquisition.
We have to talk about what is next for the Toronto Raptors, which is the Denver Nuggets, in particular. Jonesy, we got to talk about Nikola Jokic because he has been the team's heart and soul, putting up some crazy numbers comparable to his MVP season from last year. And this is all without Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray, who have been injured. So it's pretty impressive to see what he's doing out there.
It's very impressive, Savanna. And when you look at this guy, first of all, I'll say this. He's a guy that accepts his limitations and actually is very self-deprecating about it, talking about how he doesn't run or he doesn't jump that high. But that's the first part of what makes him great. He accepts his limitations and he knows what he can do within them. To one of the other things you talked about, without Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., he has been a true MVP in the sense of the word that not only is he scoring, he's rebounding, and his assist game, the way he passes the ball and his vision, it makes other players around him better. It raises their offensive potential just because of the way he handles the ball. And he really does epitomize everything that you would talk about in a point forward or a point center. The offense runs through him. He looks for his scoring. There are times when he steps out and shoots threes. There are other times when people forget, oh, yeah, this guy's 7 foot. He goes down low, and it's not pretty. you can time it with a sundial, but he gets the move made. He gets the bucket. He gets the job done. So he's really impressive. A lot of people, grudgingly, give him his due. They don't want to give this guy, show him for his full worth, but he's a terrific player. And I got to tell you, if you're a fan of basketball,
yes,
you just love watching this guy play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now, Sherm, there are 3 games left before All-Star break, really. The Nuggets, the Pelicans, and finally the T-Wolves. Sherm, what do you hope to see from this team, the Raptors, in this final 3 games, other than wins, of course?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we want them to win. There's no question about it. But I think when you're talking about this block of games before the All-Star break is we all heard about this and how this can be the trap games. The time when you're just about to get to the All-Star break and some teams check out before the All-Star break arrives. And that's an area of professionalism, the ability to stay locked in on the task at hand. And you deal with the All-Star break when the buzzer goes at the end of the Timberwolves game. And I think that's what I expect from this team. I expect them to be locked in, professional, compete to the buzzer, and then change their focus for the All-Star break. The other thing is, we're talking about a team who's doing some great things right now. The expectation of Pascal Siakam to continue his above All-Star play after being snubbed as a potential fill-in. Fred VanVleet continued. Gary Trent Jr. had a great game on Thursday with 42 points. So I expect all of those things to continue. Defensively, that intensity, I want to see it build. I want to see the turnover stay low through the next 3 games as well. So the expectations about them are just continuing to grow in what they've been doing over this 8-game win streak. And then at the end of the day, see that they play to the final buzzer and they stay professional, get the job done, and then go enjoy their All-Star break.
Sherm, how fun was it to see during the Charlotte game, just Pascal Siakam and Gary Trent Jr. kind of flip-flopping and taking the reins?
Oh, it was excellent. And to that point, Sav, that just speaks to this team understanding who's got it going. Feed that hand, stay consistent with that. Nobody else get in the way, regardless of what's happening with you. Get the ball to the person who's got it going. And they just took their turns and just back and forth and were able to get the job done. It's just an understanding and a level of maturity that this team has to be able to recognize that.
Absolutely. You could watch the next Raptors game against the Denver Nuggets Saturday, February 12th at 7:30 p.m. Watch it on TSN. Listen to it on Sportsnet. From myself, Savanna, Jonesy, Sherm, Jake, Amy, and Garth behind the scenes, thank you for watching another episode of Raptors Today.